Greetings, this is Professor Jahsun of Os Melanjos de Mestre Toro. I'm working for William Grant Still Center, and this is African Martial Arts, Week 4. So this week, we will be discussing the movements of Martelo-Chapa, and we'll be discussing the very, very powerful and interesting aspects of the Yoruba people, specifically the Orisha and Orishas that are very much associated with Capoeira. So let's begin once again by analyzing our placement on the map. So I use this colonial map only to discuss with you that African people were oppressed by European nations. And in this discussion, what we plan on doing is showing you ways to break free of this colonialism. But in order to understand and break free, we have to know what we're breaking free from. So once again, on the map, this is the Yoruba people, and the Yoruba people are in essence coming out of the area known as Nigeria, which was colonized by the British. Once again, here is the map of Yoruba land. And interestingly enough, the Yoruba people also were captured and brought to Brazil. So when we think about this, last week we talked about how Ifa, which is the umbrella tradition of the Yoruba people, that the Orixa spring from. The Orixa are in essence fed by Ifa. All of the Orixa, with the exception of one known as Osain, the Orixa were initiated to Ifa. So as we begin, what are Orisha, Orisha, Orisha? And I spell it all of these ways because each spelling denotes a different area in which African people found themselves in the diaspora. Orisha with O-R-I-S-A, that is generally how we spell it in Nigeria or through Isheshe tradition. Orisha with the S-H-A, that's how we also spell it in Isheshe, but more commonly found in the tradition of Lukumi. And Orisha with the X, many times we find that spelling in the aspect of the diaspora out of Brazil. But interestingly enough, when we talk of Orisha, the thing that we don't talk of enough about in the diaspora is Irumole. What is Irumole? So as we begin this process of decolonization and this process of doing a deeper understanding of what these spiritual traditions had to and have to contribute to Capoeira and other African martial arts, we need to understand their origins. So what is Irumole? According to Chief Shologbere Popola, Irumole in Yoruba or Odua language, it's broken into Irum Mo Ile. And what does that mean? Irum is short for Orun, which is Orun to Odua people is the sky world. We translate that as being heaven. So Irun means a heavenly being. Imo. Imo means to know. It is a verb, a Yoruba verb. Mo, imo, imo, to know. And last is ile. Ile means the earth, or it means the place we stand. When we put all of these things together, it literally means heavenly being that knows the earth. So when we say heavenly being that knows the earth, what we're also saying is that Irumole are heavenly beings that have come to earth, and many of them have left a legacy of character for us to follow. And then that legacy of character oftentimes becomes translated or understood as Orisha. So Erumoles are extraterrestrial, they're primordial beings. When I say primordial to some of you young folks, primordial basically means old, old. Like when I say old, old in the sense of before time as we know it. And they are intermediaries between Eneyang, Eneyang, and Ajogun. And that is, Eneyang are the humanoid beings that, for the Yoruba people, came before humans, and Eneyang are human beings, and the Ajogun are the forces that are not always so good. So the Irumole are intermediaries that assist us as human beings to have good luck and keep us far from the bad luck, in essence. So when we think of Orisha, as talked about by Chief Fama, Orisha is basically categorized as forces known as saints and some specially endowed human beings by Olodumare God with natural abilities to excel themselves and outstandingly distinguished in deeds, and that should be feats amongst their contemporaries. So I love the way she puts that, outstandingly distinguished. So when we speak of Orisha, Orishas are individuals, they could be human, they could be Irumole, that have come to earth and they left a legacy of character for other individuals to follow. They can also be bodies of water. They can be sacred plants. They can be sacred trees that people have come to, and they've had good luck every time they worked with those plants, human beings, or what have you. So when we speak of that, how does that relate to this beautiful art? When we look at the Orisha, many of the Orisha also manifest themselves in Capoeira. One notable Orisha that manifests itself in Capoeira is also an Irumole, and his name is Ogun. Ogun, in the Yoruba Esheshe way of looking at him, Ogun, and the Candomblé Brazil tradition, and Ogu in the Haitian voodoo tradition. Same deity, same energy, different places. And this is the deity of war, strategy, technology. And when we look at that, when African people come into Brazil, into Cuba, into Haiti, what we do, remember what I said when we talked about Congo or Angola. If we have one thing that is good and another thing that is good, what ends up happening is we put those two good things together and multiply the goodness. So if the story of Christianity is good and has good messages and good values similar to what African people have who are Yoruba, then when these Yoruba people are brought to Cuba, when they're brought to Brazil, they take that information and they connect it with the tradition that they are already practicing. So in Brazil, what African people did, as they did in Haiti, as they did in Cuba, is we connected the Orishas with Catholic saints that were very similar. All right. So these are the things that we did in order to survive. And that is also Capoeira. Ogun is the patron saint of Capoeira, whether it be Salbento, Saint Benjamin, whether it be any other understanding of a warrior. When we look at Saint Ben, we see this individual sitting on top of a horse, and he's in armor. That is Ogun. Even if it's not Ogun in the name, by spirit, by energy, it is the same. So we see these forces manifesting themselves within Capoeira. And as I said before, understanding these aspects will help enhance and elevate and decolonize our perception of African martial arts. So from here, we'll move on into the wonderful, powerful movement of Martelo-Chapa. Thank you. Now, let's see, Negativa, Martelo-Chapa. Bread and butter move for Capoeira Angola, Salbento Grande. So as you can see, I negativa, negative, and get out of the way. Martelo-Chapa. Let's see it from the side. Negativa, martelo. Slide my hands in to make my chapa strong. Negativa, Martelo-Chapa. Negativa, martelo, slide the hands in and chapa. My head is tucked to my chest. My chin is to my chest. I'm looking at my target the whole time. Try it slowly. Obrigado.